Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah, and we take this opportunity in this blessed night of Jum'ah. We pray that Allah open for us doors of understanding, and may Allah bless us with guidance, that we are able to obey Him and refrain from His prohibitions, and may Allah bless us with Iman and Taqwa and Husnul Khatimah, and gather us with our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam Yawm al-Qiyamah, Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen. In our last lesson, we were speaking about the shortening of prayers, Al-Qasr, and we have completed the part anywhere he mentioned about Qasr. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we will enter into the conditions in your Qasr. I believe we have not completed. So the author he mentioned Faslun wa shurutul Qasri. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer to read?
قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين. شروط القصر العلم بجوازه، وأن لا يقتدي بمتم ولا بمشكوك السفر، وأن ينوي القصر في الإحرام، وأن يدوم سفره من أول الصلاة إلى آخرها.
So we find it is a very concise and Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah, mashallah, in 2 sentences. The author summarize conditions of Qasr. In some books maybe 2 pages. But here, this is the beauty of this book. It makes learning easy. It summarizes the main points. So the author mentioned the conditions in your Qasr. So basically, conditions means that if any of these conditions are not met, meaning the prayer is not valid. It is not permissible for to perform any Qasr. So this is what we meant by conditions. So the conditions must be present in order for us to shorten our prayers. Number 1, he mentioned al-ilmu bi jawazihi, and this is a very important point that we have to ponder. The author he mentioned that if a person wants to shorten the prayers, he must possess knowledge on the permissibility. What does it mean? Meaning, if a person wants to perform an qasr, he must know what are the conditions that enable him to perform any qasr. But if a person doesn't know anything on the permissibility of qasr, some people they thought that as long as I'm a musafir, khalas, I can do qasr all the way. Now his prayer is not valid. He doesn't know his prayer is not valid because this condition is not there. Is the prayer valid not valid? The prayer is not valid. Because the obligation is that he must perform 4 rak'ah, not 2 rak'ah. Because why? He doesn't possess knowledge. Al-ilmu bi jawazi, that he must understand. He must understand these conditions. He must understand this ruling. When he can perform qasr, when he cannot perform qasr, why can he perform qasr, what are the conditions of qasr, what are the pillars of qasr. So at least a person must study, must learn. So if a person who does not learn, then it is not permissible for him to do qasr. But if he does any qasr, then the prayer is not valid. Clear, inshallah? And this is a very important point. Why I say it's a very important point, because a lot of people fell into this. A lot of people. There are people, for example, they do not know anything about qasr, and they find their friends, they ask, hey, why you shorten your prayers? Why are you shortening your prayers? Some people say, because we are musafir. Oh, like that. Okay, I also want to shorten my prayers. So we tell him, no, for you, no. You have to pray 4 rak'ah. We tell him that you have to pay how many? You have to pray 4 rak'ah, meaning after the imam, assalamu alaikum, and you have to go up and pray another 4 rak'ah. Because why? So many of our ulama, like the author of Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah, even though some scholars mention this is kind of like shadid or something that is difficult for the awam, but ihtiyat, to play safe. Tamam? And this is the mu'tamad in our madhab. But the author is saying, it is the prevailing judgment. It is a strong in your opinion. It's not something that is weak. Because the validity in your prayers depends on the knowledge. Likewise, any pertaining to prayers. And if a person doesn't know Arkanus Salah, and he does not know what are the pillars in your prayers, yani he thought any recitation Fatiha Sunnah. Many in your Jama'ah here, they ask the question, is recitation of Fatiha wajib? And people have doubt. Yani they do not know that recitation of Fatiha and is wajib. Their prayer is not valid, correct or not? prayer is not valid. There are people who thought Tashahud Akhir Sunnah, Tashahud Akhir, or Salawat upon the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Salawat upon the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a Sunnah in prayer. Yeah, and the prayer is not valid. Why? Because you cannot differentiate any between what is Rukun and what is non-any Rukun. This is also mentioned by the author in the beginning of prayers, and if you remember, in the chapter any of prayers. And this is our madhab, Imam Shafi'i. Likewise, any other any madhabs also they speak about the obligation of seeking knowledge. This is what Imam Ghazali emphasized. If you read Ihya Ulumuddin and in the Kitab al-Ilm, mashallah, and he emphasized on this, the importance of seeking knowledge, which is fardu ain and which is fardu kifaya, and the relation between the validity of ibadah and so on and so forth. So this is point number 1, and he said, al-ilmu bi jawazihi. Number 2, he mentioned Allah yaqtadiya bi mutim. Yani if a person and is a ma'mum and he follows behind a mutim. What is the meaning of mutim? Mutim is a person who prays 4 rak'ah. This we say, this tamam. Tamam yani it is a complete 4 rak'ah. So the person who prays 2 is qasir. Mutim yani is a person who prays 4 rak'ah. So now you are musafir, but your imam is a mutim. You go to Kuala Lumpur, for example, you are musafir, but then you want to pray the Isha prayer in the mosque, masjid, khalas, you cannot do qasar, because confirm imam is mutim. Imam is the imam of the masjid, and confirm is mutim. Unless if you pray at the highway, normally highway, people volunteer become imam at Surau, Musalla. So for example, you go to Kuala Lumpur, you stop at Simpang Genggam. So normally a lot of people will be praying, and sometimes people volunteer becomes imam. Usually they are musafir. Usually. But sometimes you thought this imam is a musafir, you say qasran. You pray qasr, you made the intention of qasr. But turn out after second rak'ah and he goes up to the third rak'ah. So now we got no choice and we have to follow. We have to follow. You cannot make the intention of mufaraqah. You cannot make the intention of mufaraqah just for the fact that you have made the intention of qasr. Because now it becomes clear to you that the imam is a mutim and not qasir. Clear, inshallah? So the condition is that the imam must be a mutim. If the imam also must perform in a qasr. But the imam is a mutim, then you have to pray 4 rak'ah. Wala bi mashkuki safar. Yani a person in the state of shak. Am I a musafir, safar tawil, or haven't yet? He has traveled and he doesn't know. Yani, is my destination more than 2 marhala or less than 2 marhala? Yani, a person in doubt, no concession. No concession. Because the origin is that he has not reached 2 marhala. The origin. In usul al-fiqh, we call it al-istishab. Al-istishab meaning going back to the asl. A person he has doubt, he has wudu or no wudu. So we say ruju ila al-asl. The origin. Does he have wudu? Does he have wudu? Then the origin, he doesn't have wudu. So we say you don't have wudu. Tamam? If a person is in doubt. A person is in doubt. Did I divorce my wife? Or I did not divorce my wife? Al-aslu al-adam. Al-aslu al-adam. Origin, he has not divorced. There is no divorce. If he is in doubt, this is called al-istishab, and this is one of the usul in our madhab. So he mentioned wa an yanwiya al-qasra fil ihram. This is important in the madhab al-Imam Shafi'i. The only madhab out of the 4 madhab that says the obligation to make the intention while reciting takbir. The only madhab. This is also a thing that we have to understand. Because people who follow other madhab criticize us. Sometimes they do not know, they criticize us. They say a lot, and the people who follow Madhab Shafi, most muwaswis, have any this waswas. Because when it comes to prayer, and we say there must be what? In Arabic, and what do we call it? Istihdar. Istihdar, yani meaning the intention must be present at the time of takbir. When we say Allahu Akbar, Al-Imam Shafi'i, and he mentioned istihdar haqiqi. We have istihdar haqiqi, istihdar urfi. For those of you following in the class Minhaj, we spoke about this. So there must be this, the intentionality must be there when we perform takbir. So now we are going into perform qasr. Here the author is saying fil ihram also. You have any to include. Yani qasdul fi'li usalli, fardiyya, ta'yin, and qasr. Usalli, fardal, isha, qasran. This is how you make intention, minimum. Correct, no? So when we say Allahu Akbar, there must be istihdar. This is what the author is saying. Fil ihram. Not any after ihram, because jama' taqdeem, it is permissible for us to make intention after ihram. Jama' taqdeem, coming. So now the author is telling to tell us that do not be confused between qasr and jama'. Jama', you can make the intention inside prayer, no issue. But when it comes to qasr, you have to make the intention in ihram. All these things, we have to learn. So when we are traveling, we must know all this, because otherwise it will jeopardize our ibadah. It is better for us not to do qasr if we don't have confidence. Yani if a person doesn't learn, as what we mentioned, doesn't learn all these things, we tell him for you is special, you become a Hanafi. Hanafi they do qasr, they do qasr no jama'. They do qasr, but after 3 marhala. For us, even after 2 marhala, we do any qasr. But if a person doesn't know all this, then he becomes a mutim all the way. He becomes a mutim. وَأَنْ يَدُومَ سَفَرُهُ مِنْ أَوَّلِ صَلَاتِ إِلَى آخِرِهَا. While he performs any qasr, from the beginning till the end of his prayers, must be in a state of safar. Must be in a state of safar. What does it mean? Last time our fuqaha, they give this example: a person prays on the ship. Tamam. So before the ship reach his homeland, so meaning before he becomes a muqim, he said Allahu Akbar, and he makes it qasr on the ship. And then the ship reaches the dock. MashaAllah. Now he has to perform 4 rak'ah. Because why? Part of the prayers now, he has become a muqim. Although he set off making the intention of qasr, but because the ship reaches land, reaches his homeland, so he becomes a muqim. So he has to complete 4 rak'ah. So here what the author is trying to say is that while we are performing our prayers, we must make sure that we are in a state of safar. Because why? The reason why we are shortening our prayers is because of safar. So if any point of our prayers that we are a muqim, then we have to complete 4 rak'ah. I believe last week we gave the example. I think the author gave an example of making the intention to return. A person, for example, he wants to go to Kuala Lumpur. While in JB, he performs any prayers, he makes the intention of qasr. But while he's praying, he said, I want to return back to Singapore. While he is praying, he says, I want to return back to Singapore. So now he becomes a musafir safar qasir. So he cannot perform any qasr. He has to perform 4 rak'ah. Clear, inshallah? So all of the prayers must be in a state of safar. I hope it's clear, inshallah. Taib, continue. So now we have completed qasr. This is the summary. The author summarized these pointers in these few sentences. Now we speak about jama'. Continue.
ويجوز الجمع بين العصر والعشاءين تقديما وتأخيرا وتركه أفضل إلا من وجد في نفسه كراهة الجمع أو شك في جوازه أو مصلي منفردا لو ترك الجمع وشروط التقديم.
Now we are going to speak we are going to speak about combining prayers, jama'. So there are 2 types. We have jama' taqdeem, jama' ta'khir. Either we bring the second prayer to the first prayer or the first prayer to the second prayer. If we bring the second prayer to the first prayer timing, this is called taqdeem. The Arabic word yani qaddama yani meaning to bring forward. Ta'khir akhara meaning to bring backward. So it is permissible for us to do taqdeem or ta'khir. And it is only any permissible any for al-asraini wal-isha'ain. Al-asrain, Zuhur and Asr. Al-isha'ain, Maghrib and Isha. So it is permissible for us to combine Zuhur and Asr, taqdeeman or ta'khiran. Maghrib and Isha, taqdeeman and ta'khiran. Wa tarkuhu afdal. You have to underline this. Sahib Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah. What do you say? Wa tarkuhu afdal. Yani his opinion, yani he said that it is better not to do jama'. It is better not to do jama'. MashaAllah. What is the reason? There is a qa'idah. Al-khuruj min al-khilaf mustahab. Al-khuruj min al-khilaf mustahab. Because in the Hanafi madhab, they say there is no jama' except jama' in Hajj. The Hanafis, they mentioned there is no combining of prayers except for combining any prayers in Hajj. What is in Hajj? In Hajj, we combine one Zuhr and Asr in Arafah and Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. Because the Prophet ﷺ did it. So they say that they only in Hajj. But other than Hajj, no Jama'. MashaAllah. So if you are traveling as a Hanafi, so no combining any prayers for you. Only Qasr. But that only if it is more than 3 marhala. This is in the Hanafi madhab. So the author mentioned al-khuruj, basically you said it is principle al-khuruj min al-khilaf mustahab. To go out any of the differences in our ulama is encouraged. So he said it is better to avoid because there is khilaf. To play safe yani. So if you are traveling, if you live, if you are in a, for example, like in a city, and you are staying in a hotel, for example, and just beside the mosque, it is better you need to pray prayers at the masjid. There will be more rewards inshallah. So in our madhab, we say that it is better you need not to combine prayers. وَتَرْكُهُ أَفْضَلْ إِلَّا لِمَنْ وَجَدَ فِي نَفْسِهِ كَرَاهَةَ الْجَمْعِ. Except if a person, he doesn't like to combine. And in his heart, he said that he doesn't like this combining of prayers. And he wants to perform any prayers at the specific timings. And for this person, we say it is better for him to combine. To remove this hatred of combining. Because there is a basis in Islam. We have to remove all forms of dislike towards any of the rulings in Islam. So it is a sunnah to fight this waswas. To fight this thought of dislike towards any of the rulings in Islam, because the Prophet ﷺ combined prayers. Just like khuf, our ulama mentioned that if a person dislike wiping on the khuf, for him it is sunnah for him to wipe on the khuf, and he has to fight this waswas. Because disliking any of the rulings in Islam is not encouraged. So if we find any of the rulings in Islam that we find dislike, we have to fight our nafs. Because it is dangerous to like and to dislike any of the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to train ourselves to love all of the laws of Allah. All of the laws of Allah. This sign of Iman. Believe in Allah, and also believe in the legislation, the laws. أو شك في جوازه. A person has doubt. Can I perform jama or cannot perform jama? Some people ask the question, I'm in Batam. Can I jama or cannot jama? So if you have doubt, then he cannot jama. If a person has doubt, then he cannot jama. The prevailing judgment of madhab is that jama must be more than 2 marhala. Qawl mu'tamad. But we have an opinion that says that even in safar qasir, we can combine our prayers. But we do not practice that. Usually we combine prayers long distance, safar tawil, more than 2 marhala, unless if a person in a state of emergency, he has difficulty, then he can take that opinion. But if a person has doubt, he cannot combine. أو يصلي منفردا لو ترك الجماعة. And he says that if I do not combine any my prayers, I pray alone. So for example, and you are traveling with a group of people. So you know Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah says one, better to avoid jama'. But the whole group combine any prayer. So now you tell yourself, if I don't follow them, I'll be praying alone. I will praying alone. It's better to combine and follow them, because you get the rewards of Fadilatul Jama'ah. So here also it is important for us to be wise. So there is no harm in combining any of prayers. We have to look at the situation. If you are in a place that you are, for example, beside any masjid, for example, you can perform your prayers on time, you don't have any much difficulty, okay, we say you don't combine any of your prayers, that is better. But if you are traveling and you have difficulty and you are in a group and so on, there is no harm to combine our prayers. Now, especially when we can get jama'ah, we get fadilatul jama'ah if you combine. Okay, continue. Washurutu taqdim. Now he is going to speak about the conditions, and the conditions for the permissibility of bringing forth the prayers. Taqdim, arba. Continue.
وشروط التقديم أربعة: البداءة بالأولى ونية الجمع فيها ولو مع السلام والموالاة بينهما ودوام السفر إلى الإحرام بالثانية.
Okay, number one, we have to concentrate. We have to pay attention to this. And he said, number one is easy. Al-bada'at bil-ula. When it comes to jama' taqdeem, we have to follow sequence. And for example, if you want to combine Zohar and Asr, it is wajib that we begin with Zohar first. Sequence. This is what he meant. Al-bada'at bil-ula. The first prayer must be the first prayer in sequence. So we cannot pray Asr first, then Zohar. This pertaining to jama' taqdeem. Jama' ta'khir is different. Later we speak about jama' ta'khir. But for jama' taqdeem, al-bada'atu bil-ula. This is point number one. Number two, niyatul jama' fiha walau ma'as salam. So earlier I mentioned the difference between intention and qasr and jama'. Qasr, we mentioned that fil ihram, the intention it must be at the time of takbir. But when it comes to jama' taqdeem, it can be made in the whole of prayers, even while performing the salam, as long as he has not completed salam. Meaning as long as he is in prayers. As long as a person is in prayers, he can make the intention of combining of prayers. Clear inshallah? A person can make any intention of combining of prayers in prayers. So not necessarily that he makes in the takbir. Some people they do not like to combine everything in takbir because it becomes too long. Jama' and qasr. So what they do, okay, we make intention of qasr, jama' we make intention while we are praying. So as long as we have not completed the first prayer, we can combine the prayers. So I hope it is clear inshallah. طيب. Then he mentioned wal muwala. Al-muwala, it must be immediate. After we perform the salah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, it must be muwala between the first prayer and the second prayer. So there must be immediate. It must be immediate. But our scholars mentioned what is the time span. Shaykh Ibn Hajar, he mentioned raka'atan khafifatan. Muwala here raka'atan khafifatan. 2 raka'ah that is light. Meaning light here, meaning only perform the rukun. Meaning if a person prays Allahu Akbar, straight away recite Fatiha. After Amin, straight away does the ruku. Tumanina in ruku. Tumanina in i'tidal, like this. This is called raka'atan khafifatan. How long? How long a normal person? Not too fast, not too slow. How many minutes? So that is the immediateness, the muwala, that a person must observe. So if anything that is more than that, then he cannot perform the jama'. He cannot combine the prayers. Clear inshallah? You see, there are some people have this misconception that if I pray Zohar prayers, after Zohar prayers I go to the toilet. But I made the intention of jama', but I go to the toilet. After I come out of the toilet, I know I cannot perform the Asr prayers because no muwala. No muwala. But this person wants jama'. So what he do? He prays Zohar again. He prays Zuhur again. So for the sake any of combining any with Asr, is this permissible or not permissible? This is not permissible. This is not permissible. So remember this. You see, when you repeat prayer, for example, just now when we perform our Maghrib prayer, if I perform Maghrib again, like now, I perform again, this Maghrib becomes Sunnah. This Maghrib and it becomes Sunnah. The first prayer that I perform, that is a wajib. That is a wajib. I'm not saying Maghrib prayer is Sunnah, don't mistaken me. I'm not saying Maghrib prayer is Sunnah. But the performance of Maghrib prayer the second time carries the ruling of a Sunnah. Because it's not wajib upon me, I need to pray Maghrib now. Because I prayed already. So I have performing my obligation. So when it comes to Jama', we have to understand. It is only permissible with the prayer that is fard. Not any prayer that takes the ruling of Sunnah, that we can perform combining any prayers. Clear, inshallah? Because there are some our brothers asking this question last time, still remember? Because of some misunderstandings in this. Because there are people who do it. They perform Zohar prayers and then they found out, hey, actually I should combine my prayers. We say in this situation you cannot combine any prayers. You have to pray Asr at the time. But he says that, but I cannot perform my prayers at the time. Now you have to make up for. You have to make up for the prayer. You have to pray Hurmatul Waqt. When the time comes. So he mentioned والموالة بينهما ودوام السفر إلى الإحرام بالثانية. Now it's the same thing as what we mentioned just on Qasr. The author mentioned that the whole prayer must be in a state of safar. The whole prayer must be in a state of safar. But here it is a bit different. Here what did the author say? He said وَدَوَامُ السَّفَرِ إِلَى الْإِحْرَامِ بِالثَّانِيَةِ. Type Thaniya here refers to the second prayer. So now I am doing any Jama' Takhir. Okay? I am doing any Jama' Takhir. So I pray my Zohar prayers. After I complete my Zohar prayers, the ship reaches my homeland. The ship reaches my homeland. So in this situation, this is not considered to be Jama'. Now the Asr, the right example Jama' Taqdim. So now the example is this. Now I am performing Jama' Taqdim. Tamam? So now I am performing my Zohar prayers. And I make the intention of Jama' Taqdim. Before I complete my Zohar prayers, the ship reaches my homeland. Now the question we ask, can I perform any Asr? Can I perform any Asr Jama' Taqdim? Meaning after I finish my Zohar prayers. After I finish my Zohar prayers, can I perform any Asr Taqdiman? Can or cannot? Cannot, Correct, You understand? Do you understand the example? What's that? Now, a person makes the intention of Jama' Taqdim. So he prays any Zohar prayers. So while praying any Zohar prayers, the ship reaches his homeland. Okay, at the dock. So can he perform any the Asr prayers, any Jama' Taqdim? Or cannot? The answer is he cannot. Correct. Because why? Because when he reaches his homeland, he's a Muqim. So now if he's a Muqim, the concession of committing a prayer is not given to him. So he has to pray the Asr at this time. Clear, inshallah? He has to pray the Asr at his time. But here the author mentioned to what extent that he can perform Jama'. He said if he has performed the takbir of the second prayer. If he has performed the takbir of the second prayer, he can continue his prayer. So now, same example. A person makes the intention of Jama' Taqdim. So he performs any Zuhur prayer, still Musafir. Then after his salam and he goes up and he to perform the second prayer, still Musafir. So he does his takbir, Allahu Akbar. This is for the Asr prayer, Jama' Taqdim. And the sheep and the gitches and the dog. So for him, and we say, you continue your prayer. Continue any your prayer. Why? And at the time, any of Ihram is a Musafir. It's not any Muqim. So the Asr prayer is valid. So can you see the difference? So the point of difference is when does he any the takbir? When he do the takbir? Does he do the takbir in the state of Musafir or in the state of Muqim? The second prayer, not the first prayer. Second prayer. So I hope it's clear, inshallah. So this different and then Qasr. Qasr earlier we say if he performs any Zuhr prayers Qasr, while he is performing any his prayers, the sheep and he reaches land. Khalas, and we say he has to pay for rak'ah. Correct na? At any point of the prayer. Unless if he completes any of the prayer before the sheep reaches, then we say Alhamdulillah he's safe. Yani the Qasr is valid. But if he's still performing any Qasr, the sheep when he reaches land, he has to become a mutim. Now continue. Okay, now the author will speak about the conditions for Jama' Ta'khir. So Jama' Taqdim, we say that we have to begin the first prayer. There must be mu'ala, correct or not? And then when it comes to intention, we can intend in prayer, not necessarily you do it in the takbir. And then your prayer must be continuous in safar in order for you to combine. But when it comes to Jama' Ta'khir, the author mentioned that the timing of intention, is the first timing. So if I want to combine Zuhr and Asr Ta'khiran, I make the intention of this Ta'khir at the time of Zuhr. At any time of Zuhr. Easy in my heart, I say I want to combine any prayers and Ta'khiran, Zuhr ma'al Asr, Zuhr and Asr. As long as we are in the time of Zuhr, walau bi qadri rak'ah. Even if there is still some moments to perform any one rak'ah, we can still make the intention. As long as the time of Zuhr is there. As long as our intention falls within the time of Zuhr, it is valid. I can perform any Jama', any Ta'khir. If I don't make the intention, then it becomes Qada. This is what the author is saying. So the thing the differentiate Ada and Qada. Qada'an is Niyyah. Intention in the first prayer. In the timing of the first prayer. That is the thing the differentiate Ada and Qada'an when it comes to Jama'. Because if a person doesn't make this intention, it becomes Qada'an. So he said, وَيُشْتَرَطُ فِي جَمْعِ تَأْخِيرِ نِيَّتُهُ قَبْلَ خُرُوجِ وَقْتِ الْأُولَى وَلَوْ بِقَدْرِ رَقْعَةٍ وَدَوَامُ السَّفَرِ إِلَى تَمَامِهَا. Same thing. دَوَامُ السَّفَرِ. دَوَامُ السَّفَرِ. Meaning, the first prayer, second prayer must be done in the state of Musafir. Must be done in the state of Musafir. This also, some people make the mistake. He traveled from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore. So he left Kuala Lumpur, for example, at 12 p.m. And then when it comes into the Zuhur time, they are on the road. So they make the intention of Jama' Ta'khir. But what is the mistake? The mistake is that they perform Zuhur and Asr in Singapore. What happens? Now, if you make the intention of Jama' Ta'khir while you are traveling, but then you pray in your homeland, when you reach in your homeland, you are no longer Musafir. When you are no longer Musafir, you are not given the concession of Jama'. So now the Zuhur becomes Qada'an. This is not Jama' Ta'khir, this is Qada'. And if a person do it intentionally, is sinful. If he does it intentionally, he is sinful. And there are people until today, they are doing this. They thought that why not we pray at our homes so that we can relax. We can take a bath first. We can relax. Everything needs to be good. Then this is a mistake. So now your Zuhur is not any Jama'an, it's Qada'an. So the way I need to do it is before entering Singapore, we perform the prayers. So for example, if you reach JB at 5 p.m. and you have made the intention of Jama' Ta'khir, so you perform Zohar and Asr where? In JB. Don't any perform in Singapore. Because when you are in JB, you are still a Musafir. But once and you cross any the border, any khalas, and you are Muqim. And you are Muqim and you are not given any the concession. Now, continue. This is what the author is saying. Ila tamamiha wa illa saratil ula qada'an. So he must any perform it any in the state any of Musafir. Otherwise any becomes qada. Which one it becomes qada? The first prayer. The first prayer becomes qada. Second prayer, no issue. Correct no? Second prayer, any you are in Asr time, it's not qada. But the qada any becomes in the first prayer. Because first prayer you have not performed. Continue.
ويجوز الجمع بالمطر تقديما لمن صلى جماعة في مكان بعيد وتأتى بالمطر في طريقه.
MashaAllah, this different than this. Read again. ويجوز
الجمع بالمطر تقديما لمن صلى جماعة.
لمن صلى جماعة. ادخل هنا. لمن صلى جماعة. ويجوز الجمع بين تقديم لمن صلى جماعة في مكان بعيد. But this is different على كل حال. طيب. نعم continue. ويجوز الجمع بالمطر.
ويجوز الجمع بالمطر تقديما لمن صلى جماعة في مكان بعيد وتأذى بالمطر في طريقه.
Now the author is going is speaking about something else. This is combining any prayers because of rain. And this is based on a hadith of Abdullah bin Abbas radiyallahu anhuma in Sahih Muslim. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to combine prayers in Medina without any sickness or reason. So the Shafi'i scholars, when they look at this narration, they began to interpret what is this meaning. What is this meaning? Because now you have an interpretation that is sahih, hadith that is sahih, saying that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam combined prayers in Medina. He's not a musafir, and without any reason, any of sickness. So this becomes a difficult thing for the Shafi'i scholars to interpret. How you need to interpret this? Al-Imam al-Nawawi and many of our ulama, like Al-Imam Shafi'i likewise, they mentioned that the hadith of Ibn Abbas refers to Jama' bil Matar. Khalas. So we found the solution. Otherwise it's very difficult. If we say that combining your prayers that is only for Musafir, and your person say, but we have hadith of Ibn Abbas. The Prophet ﷺ, and he used to combine. The Shafi'i scholars mentioned that combining your prayers bil Matar. Because nowadays people take the hadith, say that we can jama anytime we want, because the Prophet ﷺ does jama. And of course the Shia is famous for this. They do jama every day. MashaAllah, they pray 3 times a day. Because jama, Zohar and Asr, Maghrib and Isha, khalas, kulla yawm, every day, jama. Some people in our country also, they follow this opinion. They say the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he does jama. So now I'm going to watch a movie. Can I do jama? So he said, of course can, because there's a hadith. But our scholars in our madhab, and he says this is specifically to matar, specifically to what you call it, combining because of rain. Now, so here the author speaks about the condition. It is permissible, he said, وَيَجُوزُ الْجَمْعُ بِالْمَطَرِ تَقْدِيمًا, only taqdeeman, no ta'khiran. There's no such thing jama' ta'khir for rain. And then the condition is that liman salla jama'atan fi makanin ba'id. A person lives far from the masjid. A person lives far from the masjid. And then it's raining. If he were to go home and return back any for Asr, it's going to be difficult, especially in places where they are mud. When it rains, for example, the streets and it become there is no tar, for example, the streets and it becomes muddy, and it's difficult for him to travel, especially in doing flood. So in this any situation, and he can combine Zohor and Asr. Yani the Imam in the masjid after make announcement, he said that today we are going to combine Zohor and Asr and because of rain. So all of us, inshallah, make intention taqdeem for those who are living far. For the masjid, you can make this intention. So they make the intention to combine the prayers. So they can combine because of rain. Our scholars differ, combine because of sickness. Combine because of sickness. Can a person do jama if he's sick? Meaning he says that if I don't combine my prayers, it'll be difficult for me to go to the toilet and to take wudu, because I have difficulty moving. I have to use stretchers. I have difficulty to go to the bathroom and all these things. So our scholars differ. Wallahu alam. There is a strong opinion as mentioned by Infatul Mu'in. Recently we covered this. It says that it is permissible. It is permissible that we combine because of sickness. Naam. Wallahu alam. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.